11th, 2008, Veterans Day, the 11th month, the 11th day, and soon to be the 11th hour. And our hometown cable cameras are once again at the Post 20 American Legion on the Quarry Road to bring you the ceremonies beginning at 11 o'clock today. It's not really inclement, but it is cool, and original plans to hold the ceremonies out on the porch were probably scrapped because it's in the low 30s, I would say, about this time, and probably won't max out in, maybe 40 degrees or so. I did a little research this morning as I was preparing to come here to cover the ceremonies, and I learned that there is only one World War I soldier still alive in America, and his name is Frank Woodruff Buckles. Frank was born on February 1st, 2001. He's 107 years young at this time, and he is the last identified living American veteran of the First World War. He currently lives in Charlestown, West Virginia. And I have a little information from the internet this morning that I thought I would share with you just as our ceremonies are about ready to begin at Post 20 American Legion on the Quarry Road here near Plattsburgh. Buckles was born in Bethany, Missouri. He enlisted at the beginning of the United States involvement in World War I in April of 1917. Only 16 at the time, he was asked from an Army recruiter his age and to show a birth certificate. He replied, "Well, when I was born in Missouri, they didn't give out any birth certificate. And the only record we kept was in the family Bible, and I'm not going to bring the family Bible down here. So they took me." Before being accepted into the United States Army, he was turned down by the Marines because of his weight. But in 1917, the 16-year-old Buckles was sent to France on the RMS Carpathia, the same ship that had rescued the survivors from the Titanic sinking 5 years before. During the war, he drove ambulances and motorcycles for the 1st Fort Riley Casual Detection section of the U.S. Army and did many other tasks while he was in the service. He was in the Army from 1917 to 1920. He achieved the rank of corporal, 1st Fort Riley Casual Detachment. He received the World War I Victory Medal, Army of the Occupation of Germany Medal, and the French Legion of Honor. So it's a great day to honor that veteran, Frank Woodruff Buckles, from the First World War, and many others, some of whom are here today, and many of whom will be celebrating in similar activities all over our nation. And don't forget Remembrance Day in Canada too. And it was on this date, 1 year after I was born in 1938, that on her radio show, Kate Smith, who spent a great deal of time here in the North Country, first sang "God Bless America." And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if during this ceremony today, "God Bless America" will be heard. I see the Plattsburgh High School band on the far side, so we'll be blessed with some numbers from them. So I'm sure the chorus will be here to sing songs, and I know there will be speeches, and the flags will be right near us, near the front of Post 20 American Legion here on the Quarry Road in Plattsburgh. I also wanted to remember that I'm so old that I can remember in parades when I was a little boy down there in New York City, in Westchester County and Rockland County, Civil War veterans were still marching in parades. The last Civil War veterans died in the mid-1950s, 1956 and 1957. So I'm honored to have covered many of these parades. In almost all the 35 years I was on a local radio station, we came here to record events and broadcast live, even when Post 20 was located down over the old Humphrey Smith Bridge leading on to Cumberland Avenue as Plattsburgh. There was a big fire there, and the place was rebuilt, and they've been up here on the Quarry Road for some time now. It pleases me to be here, and in a few minutes Our ceremony for Veterans Day will begin.
Take your seats, we're about ready to start. Phil, if you want to come up here, please. This time we'll have the posting of the I first of all want to welcome everybody to American Legion Post 20 for our Veterans Day service this year. It's great that we got a full house again. For the number of people that have came to me and asked about reservations, that was a misunderstanding. We never ever asked for reservations for Veterans Memorial Day. This is open to the public. But this time I'll call on the Corps Cadets, New York State 96th Regiment, the National Guard to post the colors. Please rise. Right in the right hand salute. 1.
Color, post. Present arms. Order arms.
2. This time I'd like to call on Post 20 Chaplain Ron Wood for the invocation.
Shall we bow our heads? O God, eternal Father and everlasting King of our heaven and earth, we render you acknowledgement of your supreme dominion over us. As we gather here in humble recognition of your divine providence, we beseech you to usher into our world of confusion and doubt the peace and tranquility which alone can come from you. Bless and protect our nation. Be merciful to our honored dead, the memory of whose valor, courage, and heroism inspires us to a noble action and to eternal vigilance in the preservation of our priceless liberty and of our inalienable rights to enduring happiness. Guide and direct our minds to a thorough understanding of our duties to you, to our country, and to one another. Awaken in our hearts the desire and the will to accomplish the ideals to which the nation extends, so that out of our determination and endeavor there may be emerge a better world, a world founded upon faith, understanding, a world dedicated to preserving the individual rights and dignity of man, a world of tolerance and justice, a world intent on loving and serving you. In this we pray. Amen.
This time we'll have the singing of the Canadian and the American National Anthem, one after the other by Cortland and Ron Wood. Assisted by the Plattsburgh High School Band under the direction of Linda Sullivan.
Proud
Please be seated. This time we'll have a welcome from Post 20 Commander Howard Turner.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. First of all, I want to welcome you here to American Legion Post 20, our home away from home. I hope everyone has a lovely day. We're just excited to see everybody here, our Canadian friends, our special guests, our dignitaries up here in the front, Mr. Maggie on the microphone. It couldn't get much better. All we have to remember is we're here for the soldiers. The ones gone, the ones that are fighting today, and the ones that are coming up to take care of our great country. I love them all. God bless you, and may you have a great day.
Thank you, Howard. We now have a word of welcome from President Unit 20 Auxiliary Mary Provost.
Good morning. On behalf of Unit 20, I welcome you all to this Veterans Day service. This is the 90th anniversary of the signing of the armistice. I want to take a moment to say thank you to our veterans, servicemen and women and their families for their sacrifices and dedication. We all pray for the safe return of every deployed serviceman and take great pride in all you have done for this country. Thank you all for coming. God bless.
Thank you, Mary. This time we'll hear from our 4th District Auxiliary President, one of our own, Mary Samodi.
Good morning. Thank you, Art. Members of Post 20 for allowing me to speak. This morning, I am here not only as the 4th District President, but I'm here because I'm the Poppy Chairman across the Department of New York this year. And I wanted to share, this is the 90th birthday. This week is the 90th birthday of the Poppy. It was first placed in New York City by Laura Michaels 90 years ago, 1918. And this morning I just wanted to share a little bit about the Poppy. Most of you have seen the Poppy, have worn the Poppy. But the Poppy, the American Legion Auxiliary Poppy, is used in support of all our veterans across the United States and in other countries. Now, I'm showing you this particular picture because our poppies, our hospitalized and disabled veterans, make the American Legion Auxiliary Poppy. It's not gone out to a company. We are still the organization that has all our veterans, disabled and hospitalized, make the poppy. When they get the poppy, this is what they get, ladies and gentlemen. The poppy, it looks like this, starts out like this with our disabled veterans. Has 4 small houses, a little green and black stem, and the little white, and the little tag. Now, when the veterans are given or paid to do this, so the American Legion Auxiliary Poppy is used in support of our veterans and all phases of the making, of the distribution. And I wanted to let you know that because I wanted you to just look. This beautiful red crepe paper poppy is made by our veterans. It supports our veterans. The Auxiliary American Legion distributes these around this morning. Mrs. Manor Audrey is distributing poppies. They are distributed, they are not sold, ladies and gentlemen, they are distributed. If you care to give a donation, that is your choice. But I wanted to remind you that 90 years ago, this small poppy, and for those of you who do not know the poppy story, I'm going to try to tell it to you in less than 3 minutes. Colonel John, he was a doctor, John McCrae, a Canadian doctor, lost his close friend, and he was a doctor on the fields of Belgium, France. The poppy does not bloom unless it is done under diverse circumstances. It lays dormant in the ground for close to 100 years. And when the grounds are disturbed, like it was in Flanders Field during World War I, a year later, that ground broke forth into the blood-red poppy to show the death of so many of our veterans, so many of our soldiers who died in World War I. There in Flanders Field, and this Canadian doctor just wrote down as he watched his dying friend and looked out across the fields of Flanders Field and saw the many deaths of so many Americans, Canadians, and he saw the red poppy, the red blood of the poppy, the small green stems taking life, and the small black stem. If you look inside your poppy, that little black part talks about the flaws and the darkness and destruction. But ladies and gentlemen, there is no way that this poppy blood red for the sacrifice of our many veterans. I don't care if you're living or dead, who have sacrificed on the fields of battle. I don't care if you're man or woman. They shed, and many of our young boys and girls that are coming home are wounded, many of their needs not being met by our government. It is up to us, the American Legion Auxiliary, the VFWs, the DAVs, the DARs, whoever you might be. If you support the veteran, stand up, support your veteran. And I want to encourage you. I'm just going to read 2 lines of the poem from in Flanders Field. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If you break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep. Those poppies grow in Flanders Field. And Aurora Michaels responded to that poem and said, the blood of heroes never die, but lend a luster to the red of the flower that blooms above the dead in Flanders Field. Our veterans may not be dead, but they need our help. And that is what today is all about, our veterans. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank Post 20 for allowing me to speak. God bless you all.
Now we'll have a welcome from Sons of the American Legion Squadron 20 Commander Chuck Dapel.
I'd like to see you all here today. We'd like to welcome everyone, and furthermore, the Sons are here to thank all veterans, no matter where they are that are, even if they've passed or whatever, we thank you for the rights that we have today. We cherish them, and we hope that we continue to have them for the rest of our lives and our children's lives. I'd like to thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Chuck. Now we'll have a musical selection from the Plattsburgh High School Band. Thank you, Linda and the band, for a beautiful job. This time I'd like to call on Post 20 Chaplain Ron Wood to read the Governor's Proclamation. Ron?
Probably the closest I'll ever get to the governor's mansion. Sorry. Whereas each year since 1926, America has set aside a national day of commemoration to honor the men and women who have served in our nation's armed forces and to express our appreciation for their service in times of peace and war. And whereas once celebrated as Armistice Day to recognize the end of World War I, November 11, marks this official observance, now known as Veterans Day, which respectfully pays tribute to all of our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard, who throughout the history of our great nation have held a vital role in defending America and preserving freedom and peace around the world. And whereas today we have a new generation of veterans who, like those who served before them, battling tyranny and oppression in 2 world wars and the conflicts in Korea, Vietnam, and the Middle East, stood in harm's way to defend our nation and our countries. And their deeds and dedication assure us, and generations to follow, that America's cherished way of life, one of freedom, opportunity, and happiness, will endure and flourish. And whereas more than 48 million men and women who served in our armed forces from the founding days of our nation through the current wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and the border global wars on terrorism, and nearly half of them are alive today, including 1,065,749 former servicemen and women in New York. Whereas on Veterans Day we acknowledge with grateful appreciation what our veterans have done and what today's men and women in uniform are continually to do to make America and the world a better, safer, more peaceful place in which to live and to raise families. And whereas we owe an immeasurable debt of gratitude to these special citizens and veterans who through great personal sacrifice have defended and have defeated brutal foes, liberated oppressed people, and defended our democratic ideals. And today we join together as one state and nation to honor the legacy of selfless contributions made by countless military veterans, especially grateful for the freedom they have bestowed upon our country and the many rewards it brings to all of our lives. Now, therefore, I, David A. Patterson, Governor of the state of New York, do hereby proclaim November 11, 2008 as Veterans Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod, for that fine job, and we'll put in a good word for you to the governor. We'll now have the laying of the wreath. Laying the wreath, honoring our World War I veterans. Our third vice commander of this post to put this program together, Cliff Matop. Representing the World War II veterans, Richard Turnbull. Representing the Korean War, Father Bob Roberts. Representing the Vietnam War, Walter Samodi. Representing Lebanon and Grenada, Rick Smith. Recognizing the conflict in Panama, Donald Rushford. Representing Desert Storm, Robert Provost. Representing the conflicts, wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, both veterans of them two conflicts, Dale and Joan McMahon. Representing our MIA POWs, former POW Robert Booth. Representing the many Canadian Legion branches across the country in Canada, which we are great friends with them all, Roosevelt Williams. Representing the Gold Star Mothers, a new Gold Star mother from the Iraqi War, Debbie Bond. Representing the Blue Star moms and dads with all their sons and daughters in the harm's way, Linda O'Connor. Representing American Legion Post 20, Commander Howard Turner. Representing Unit 20 Auxiliary, Audrey Manor. Representing Veterans of Foreign War Post 125, Tom Nikowski. Representing the American Military Retirees, Chapter 2-1, Robert Young.
I'm sorry, but our wreaths weren't delivered. We do on our veterans.
We have some back there, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Both of you can go back there. You're back to back. And also the American Military Retirees Auxiliary, Chapter 2-1, Gloria Young. Representing the Disabled American Veterans, Chapter 179, John Ritchie. Representing the Daughters of the American Revolution, Suzanne Jones. Representing the 48th, Chef Cigar Ron Cookson, escorted by Sonny Brady and Ricky Leclerc. Sons of the American Legion Squadron 20, Commander Chuck Dapo. Are there any other organizations that wish to lay a wreath at this time? Bob, you can take your troops up. I would ask two of the cadets to please hold the doors open. Dick, tell them when they're ready, they can go ahead. We'll have the honored rifle salute by the Post 20 Honor Guard, followed by taps by a member of the Plattsburgh High School Band. Please rise. And salute. Two. Please be seated. At this time, I would like to call on Captain Jeffrey Knowles of the Royal Marine Commandos, the former POW, for a few words. Jeffrey.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Nice to see you all here. Are there any Marines here? Former Marines? Glad to see you. Hoorah! Anyway, what I want to say is, I live in Canada, but I'm born in Britain. So I'm a Royal Marine from England, but Canada does not have Marines. So I spend most of my time down here, and I'm invited by generals at Paris Island to go and give talks to the recruits, and also San Diego. So I travel around the U.S. a lot more, because I was in a unit that fought the Japanese in Burma. And in Canada, you can't find anybody that fought against the Japanese. Everything is Normandy and D-Day, that's all I ever hear. So I spend more time in the United States and England than I do in Canada when doing with the military. And I just have to tell you today that the Marines do 32 weeks boot camp, and they start at 16 years of age. That's legal in England now. And every one of them that passes is a commando automatically. And some do the paratroop training as well. Now I have to just close in asking Howard Turner if he would come up, because I have a presentation to make to him. On behalf of the Royal Marines, this is our ship, our own ship, HMS Ocean, that is fully supplied with Harriers and helicopters and every other thing that's needed, so they can go aboard, 700 of them, and be away within an hour. So I think that's good, and I want to present this to Post 20 on behalf of the British Royal Marine Commandos. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeffrey. You even surprised me by keeping it short. This time I have a letter to read from Assemblyman Little, or Senator Little, who expressed her regret that she couldn't attend today. Thanks for the gracious invitation to attend Veterans Day ceremony at the American Legion Post 20. I regret that I am unable to attend. Veterans Day is both a national day of commemoration and our own local and community day. It draws our thoughts to our nation as we reflect upon the sacrifices of those who fought for their country. But our thoughts also turn to those brave individuals who also happen to be our friends and neighbors. We draw closer together as a community through these shared memories, by recognizing that the life we cherish was preserved by those whom we honor today. Signed, Elizabeth Little, Senator. Our next speaker represents the 114th District of the Assembly. He comes from a large military background family. We've known each other for a number of years. He's a great advocate of the veteran, both in Albany and locally. And without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Janet Dupree, our recently re-elected Assemblywoman from the 114th District. Janet.
Thank you, Art. It's so nice to be here, and it's just so great to see this kind of a turnout. It always reminds us that patriotism in the North Country is alive and well. I spoke last week to a group of 5th grade students. And at some point during the program, one of the students asked me how many speeches I'd given. And I thought, it's been a long ride, 33 years in this crazy political game, and the answer has got to be hundreds, probably more in the last 2 years than in the previous 20. And I realized as I was getting ready to come here this morning that truly the only time I'm apprehensive about giving a speech are on the occasions when I'm in a room full of heroes. I always wonder if I'm going to say the right thing. And I think more importantly, I always wonder if I'm going to be able to truly say thank you. Thank you to all of you who have served our country. Thank you for the sacrifices that each and every one of you has made and that your families have made. I know that you have bad memories and nightmares that probably often overshadow the good memories and the great times. I want to congratulate you for your personal sense of pride and having served our country, knowing that you made our country safer for you, for your families, your children, your grandchildren, for my family and me, thank you. Your pride in knowing that you've helped to maintain the democracy that has allowed us to, quite frankly, survive the recent 2-year election cycle of I don't know how many candidates and how many barbs and controversies and issues. And to come out on the other end and to wake up last Wednesday morning and know that not only was history made, but regardless of how we felt throughout the campaign, doesn't matter who we voted for, that we know because of you people who have served in the military, whose families have served in this military, that this country is going to go on. The election cycle is finished. We give thanks to the veterans who have truly proven once again that we in this wonderful country of ours are one United States under God, and that we continue to have hope. And my hope is for the love and the protection of the families who have lost veterans. Many of you have heard me say it before. It was 40 years ago on August 16th, 1968, that the Marines knocked on the door to say that my 20-year-old brother-in-law had been killed in Vietnam. Listening to taps never gets easier. I said to our wonderful Gold Star mothers earlier, I woke up that morning on August 16th with a chill, thinking of Art, of what he might have been, of all he could have become, and cannot, in my wildest dreams or imagination, imagine what it is to be a mother who has lost a child. So I stand in front of you today, and I hope from the bottom of my heart that to each of you, my very simple but incredibly sincere thank you conveys to you how much I respect and admire each of you.
Thank you, Mr. Dupree, for sharing them words right from the heart. I know they are. Our featured speaker today, I met last June up in Lake Placid. After attending a meeting, I was driving away from the Comfort Inn and I found him walking. He had been to the meeting. And I rolled the window down and asked him where he'd go, and he said he was going to pick up his car that he'd left off for inspection, which was 1 3/4 miles away. And I thought I was going to have to wrestle him into the car to give him a ride. He is a great gentleman. 90 years ago, he joined the U.S. Army right here in Plattsburgh Barracks. 90 years ago. He's a young chap.
70 shoot.
He retired in 1963. Master Sergeant McKenna, during his military career, served in various Army posts in the United States, Arctic Pacific Theater, Korea, and in Europe. Throughout his military career in war and in peace, he demonstrated loyalty to his country and accomplished his assigned duties in an efficient manner. This is going to be a history lesson for you young students over there. Master Sergeant McKenna has been awarded the Silver Star Medal with oak leaf clusters, Bronze Star Medal with 6 oak leaf clusters, the D device Purple Heart with 3 oak leaf clusters, Good Conduct Medal with Bronze Class and 5 loops, the American Defense Service Medal, American Campaign Medal, European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal with 4 bronze, silver stars. World War II Victory Medal, Army of Occupation Medal in Germany, National Defense Service Medal, Korean Service Medal with 3 bronze stars, United Nations Service Medal, and the Combat Infantry Badge with star. He entered the military service from the state of New York, right here in Plattsburgh Barracks, 72 years ago. This time it gives me great honor and great pleasure to introduce Sergeant Philip McKenna. I lost the first.
Any World War II veterans here, hold up your hand. Let's see them all, go ahead. I got just a little brief thing, I'm sure you've heard it before, but it doesn't hurt to hear it again, about a soldier. It's the soldier and not the reporter who has given us freedom to press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who has given the freedom of speech. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who gives us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier who salutes the flag. It's the soldier who serves beneath the flag. The soldier whose coffin is draped by the flag. It's a soldier who allows us to burn the flag. Think about that. What I want to talk about today mostly is the people who are no longer with us. And I'd like to go back as far as George Washington in 1770. 4,400 dead in his army. Still fighting the British. 2,200 died while Betsy Ross was writing a national anthem. In 1840, trying to read my own writing here, Mexico tried to conquer the West, and it cost 1,700 lives to put a stop to them. In 1864, the Civil War cost us 215,000 dead. In 1898, the war with Spain, 385. World War I, 53,000. 1944, North Africa alone, 292,000. Ah yes, North Africa. We ate sand, we slept in sand, and the wind blew sand in all our vehicles. Everything was a life of sand. You might think it was awful hot over there in North Africa. Sometimes it was, but in the nights it got pretty cold. The United States military got some of the best military education in North Africa fighting against Rommel. He was smart. And if Hitler had supported him, there might have been a different outcome of World War II. He ran out of supplies because they were coming down through western part of Africa and all the way across northern Africa to supply his troops. And it finally got so bad he realized that he could no longer fight a smart war, and he had to withdraw back to Kasserine Pass. Talk about a smart general. On his way back, instead of just leaving whatever ammunition, whatever maintenance supplies, uniforms, clothing, supplies of any kind, canned rations, he didn't just walk away from them and leave them for the American troops to come along and pick up. He buried them. And he hid them. Because he knew that if Hitler gave him what he needed, the supplies, he'd be coming back. They knew where their stuff was. Unfortunately for him, he didn't get the supply he needed. And the American troops, who were suffering their first real combat in a major war, were pursuing Rommel through Kasserine Pass, and we're doing a pretty good job of it. But we learned more about tactics and tank warfare from Rommel than we ever did from our own commanders. It was a prep school for World War II, as far as the rest of the world was concerned. But enough about Africa. I got hurt over there. I was gun commander on a tank destroyer, and our tank was damaged, could no longer use it. For those of you who don't know what a tank destroyer was, it was a special weapon that was developed early in the stages of World War II, and it was to combat the Tiger tanks that the Germans had, and they were mounted with an 88 rifle, which was came with our tanks. Our tanks couldn't withstand that 88. So our ordnance departments developed a weapon to offset that. It was called a tank destroyers. The only trouble was that there wasn't enough of them at that time in production. There was only 2 battalions of them that made it in time to be in North Africa. But they were a lighter weapon. They were a tracked vehicle. They didn't have a closed-in turret. It was an open turret, but they had a 90mm rifle on them. And their motto was seek, strike, destroy. They get in there fast, they do the job, and they get out. A 90mm rifle was cleaning out the German tanks. And this was one of the things that forced Rommel out. My tank destroyer, unfortunately, got hit in the track, and the mechanism, you couldn't do anything but just one track would work. All you could do was spin around in a circle. Well, that's no fun out there with people shooting at you. So, of course, in a track vehicle in combat, you have infantry troops who are going along supported so nobody can come climb on your tank and drop a grenade down. So what our tank crew did, we got down on the ground. We didn't have rifles. You don't have rifles in a tank. You might have a machine gun, but mostly we carried pistols, a Tommy gun. That's the only weapon you had room for in there. And we were fighting along with the infantry that was supposed to be supporting us. And we were running, and everybody was running. They were jumping across a little ditch. So I come along and I jumped across the ditch. Unfortunately for me, the Germans were fighting with the Italians, or the Italians were fighting with the Germans at that time. And there was a little guy down there with a bayonet. I jumped over the ditch. Came up with a bayonet. Got me right in the stomach. Well, I guess about 7, 8 months I was evacuated back to States. Before I got over that, they had to take a piece of my stomach out. I don't eat too much. I don't get fat. I can still wear my uniform. So that was so much for North Africa. My next job was an underwater demolition job. We were working off the coast of Normandy. The Germans didn't know we were there. What we were doing, we were investigating to find out what kind of underwater defenses that they had there. And they had tetrahedrons, that's metal that's all welded in different shapes, that puncture tanks and vehicles going over. They had underwater pipes under there that they could flood with gasoline and set it on fire. And this was our job, find out what was going on and disable as much of it as we could. But
we weren't, let's say, underwater demolitions. Scuba or self-contained underwater breathing apparatus had not been developed at that time. The French developed that. So all we had was a wetsuit and a good set of lungs, and we'd go down, stay down as long as we can, and come back up. And this took about, we went to school in Corpus Christi, Texas, took our underwater training, and mostly it just consisted of swimming and swimming and swimming and improving your breath. And we did have a wetsuit.